Yo, welcome. Good evening. Welcome to the 360NS podcast. I'm Billy Stalcup, president, being joined by Michelle Maggiore, president of 2M Transformation Services. Welcome to this evening.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. What a cool place we're in together.
Do you like it?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Can I be honest with you? This is kind of the very first time that we're doing this.
Really? Why did you choose me as your first guest?
You happen to be in town, and we just had a great conference with ITS World Congress 2025. I think it's great that you were here and agreed to be on the show.
Well,
welcome.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a whirlwind of a week. I mean, we've spent all this week talking with a lot of different companies and technologies and from all across the world in our transportation industry. But I think back to when I think back to some of the first times that we first started working together. And do you remember what the project was when we were trying to pursue a project? And
I remember exactly where I was when we were trying to pursue the project.
It was actually for a project right here in the state of Georgia, right? It was one of the largest deployments of connected vehicle infrastructure. And I remember when we first started working together, and I didn't know you, but I was very taken by your passion and your attention and just your ability to understand kind of innovative technologies, but in a different kind of disruptive way. Do you remember the project that we're talking about?
I do remember, and I think you're being really kind right now about our first meeting.
I was kind of like, who the fuck is this person?
Well, you were super kind about it. So let me tell you that, yes, I feel I'm driven by innovation. I love being a change maker and a change agent. But when I met you, I had a product that I was trying to sell. And
That's right.
I'm very good at selling products. And, just sort of as an aside, that's part of what we have to do in this industry. We have to sell products. But may I, or do you want to have follow-ups?
Right,
there are products.
There's a ton of products here. These products were, a mixture of combination of like legacy systems, but these were all kind of products which have formed our company, our organization, our industry, but also just kind of a time lapse of like where this industry's come, where it's going. And yeah, I mean, while there's always kind of a product that we're trying to sell, like I thought it would be great to have you on the show and kind of talk about how that vision started, but also how that vision has changed and where we see our industry, where we see the greatest opportunity for advancement and change in our industry as well.
All right. Well, I'm going to go back to how I met you.
All right. Let's go back.
So I was working at Cisco Systems, and we had a really cool product around something I'm still kind of passionate about, low latency decision-making at the edge. So it was really about trying to make, transportation safer, more efficient, and all of these things. But I had a product to sell, and I had an account manager call me, and she said, you need to call Billy Stalcup. And I had never heard of anybody with the name Billy. And,
That's my name, by the way.
Well,
I'm Billy.
And I thought, I can't wait to get to know somebody named Billy, So, and I thought, oh, this he's going to be nice. He's going to be really nice. His name's Billy. And essentially, I was on a phone call trying to push my product to Billy. Because I thought it was the right product, but also because I had a product to push, and Billy wasn't very nice to me.
Oh, I thought the product was bullshit, to be honest. I thought it was overpriced.
Well, that's probably why you weren't very nice. But, I think it's interesting because...
The concept, I would say the concept I thought was fantastic. Being able to understand and parse information all the way out at the edge and disseminate that information and communicate that in such a way that allowed greater interoperability.
Well, I thought it was the right solution for what you were, working on here in Georgia, which was the largest, I think you said, statewide connected vehicle deployment of any state in the country. I think at the time, and as I continue to do, I see investments by our public sector practitioners as something they need to make once and not have to make again for 5 or 10 years, right? We shouldn't be selling them things that we know that they're going to have to throw away next year. And I really believed and still believe that was a good product, but I still had to sell it.
What was it? Do you remember the name of that product?
I do remember. It was called Edge Fog Module, EFM.
Do you remember how many iterations of that product name We're
Well, we like to change product names, but the idea was still the same, and really the idea persists today.
yeah.
It was sometimes, with ideas, sometimes there's like two ways to fail, and one is to be too far ahead, and one is to be too far behind. And that's the interesting thing about transformational industries. You're trying to time it just right, and we were just a little too far ahead. But now I think we're in the sweet spot right now.
Sometimes it's not necessarily the first to market, but timing and technology and market adaptation all have to come together at the right time.
It does, and it's sometimes
Yeah.
it's not just about even the market. It's about sort of the policy, regulatory framework, right? Just sort of where you sit, and if all those things are coming together, and if you're an entrepreneur like you are, you know that you work really hard to time this stuff perfectly, and sometimes you don't get it right, but that doesn't mean you stop trying. And again, I think we're on like the
Oh my
cusp
God.
of it right now. I feel that the time is actually here. We are persisting in this country toward automation, AI, machine learning, and I feel strongly we need to take that sort of back and make it work for us rather than making us work, for AI and automation.
And I appreciate that, and I think you had and have been and continue to be just a very visionary leader in this industry in your ideas and concepts and really passion for industry change. Do you remember what happened with that project? Were we successful?
I'm not certain because I was a salesperson. I went on to another job.
Well, I'll answer the question actually then. So we weren't successful in that pursuit, but it opened up my mind to a different perspective on looking at things maybe differently. I think a lot of our industry is mandated and guided by guidelines, by standards that are written in place. How have you seen that? How have you seen that change, or do you feel like that is limiting us in any way? But going back, I would say like 8 years ago to where we are today, like what's one of the things that you've seen change in our industry or within yourself?
Well, those are two very closely related and very independent
Very
questions. But
independent.
I will say one of the reasons why I think we're in a place for disruption is because honestly, Billy, I haven't seen that much change. I still see very limited investment towards traffic operations. I see very little interest towards things like safety, even though people say we want to be safer. We see fatalities rising in the United States. When I come to Atlanta, I'm sitting in traffic all the time. I don't think anything's changed. I think if anything, it's changed for the worse. And that is why it's not even I believe, I know that it's actually time for real change. We kept trying to do the same things over and over again and make incremental changes. Incremental changes are not what is needed in this industry. We need to sort of do a leapfrog, change
Yeah.
conceptually how we're thinking about solving the problem, right? So I believe and know that not that much has changed, but now we can make a change. And I will tell you why from my perspective. Our children and young people are used to being connected, having information, knowing where they're going in very short amounts of time, right? They don't want to wait for information. They don't
I'm
want to wait for
impatient.
traffic, and they're used to not having to. So the generations that we're dealing with aren't willing to wait for us, old people to make dumb decisions about what they need. They're in the generation of the internet. They're in the generation of the iPhone, right? So we have to start thinking like that way about our transportation system. If we're thinking about setting standards or setting policies or we're too late already. We have to be sort of going to market from a grassroots environment where we say we are the change we want to see. I mean, that sounds ridiculous. I'm
Sure.
sorry.
Well,
But
okay.
it's true, right?
No, it is. It is true. I think driving towards change is really what our industry and market needs. We were just at ITS World Congress. We had all these companies and leaders in this industry. To me, I'll be honest, it felt like a lot of the same fucking thing that I've seen from previous conferences, just in a bigger scale, right? So all these tech companies come together. They have bigger booths, though. This is, a bigger event. What would you say is one thing that you feel is resonating or missing right now let's just take this past week.
Well, what's missing, and we were trying to highlight it today in some work that we did, We talk so much to consultants in the transportation arena, and of course we talk to our state departments of transportation, cities and counties. But I mentioned earlier, we're actually the customer. We're the people that are actually using the
That's true.
transportation
We
system.
are.
And we're interacting with devices and systems and technologies that are produced by vendors. And what I saw today was there was more energy in around the vendor trade show community than in sort of the state DOT led transportation sessions, because I think that people are starting to understand, right? Technologies are now sort of driving. They're driving the decisions that our states make. It used to be states were making decisions and they were choosing technologies. Now technologies are driving their decisions. And so I think,
Well, who operates faster? I mean, would you say the technology industry operates slower than our government sectors when it comes to?
well, I don't think anybody possibly could operate slower than our government sectors, but I do think that this is it's not only a place for change, but it's a place for responsibility, right? So, and I'm very passionate about this. Sort of as technology companies, we really need to be putting ourselves in the shoes of, well, us, because we're the customer of the transportation system. Who do we want to be providing these technologies to us? Who do we want to have to answer to around digitization, right? Who do we want to be in that ecosystem? I'm very passionate about it because I chose this profession. I chose to be a civil engineer. You don't choose it because you don't like humanity or public sector. I mean, that's like the definition of it, right?
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Latrobe High School, Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Okay, we're going back.
Well,
we're going back
you
a
didn't
bit.
specify.
Okay.
Very proud. I love my Pennsylvania roots. I think it is what sort of has driven my interest in trying to make things better, because that's how sort of we were raised and stuff.
That's awesome. I know a lot of people from Pennsylvania, and I have to say, I like people from Pennsylvania. I think you talk about grassroots and kind of homegrown and a movement. And I really feel like our industry, I know we share a lot of the same concepts and ideas and passions for this, but I feel like a grassroots movement has really started to swell and develop in this industry that's been limited a lot by regulations and by legacy protocols and by legacy formalities and bureaucracies that come from the top down. And so you and I have talked some about this, but like what we're doing to make an impact, to improve the operations and the safety of our roadways, but to also advance technology, like there's a lot of limiting factors on that. I feel like there's a lot of things that really have bottlenecked or have created kind of a funnel and backflow that allows technology to advance and allow these applications to really be embraced and advance these technologies for the better of humankind, of the better of our commutes, the safety of our commutes, the interoperability of our systems together. I mean, we've been trying to solve this problem and this challenge for so many years. And for a long time, I thought we should get involved with creating those standards. We should get involved in understanding and like forming these standards. But what I've seen as a major challenge in this is those standards take so long to come out, 3, 4, 5 years to publish standards. What happens in the technology world in that 3 or 4 or 5 years? Do you remember what type of phone you had, say 5 years ago?
I do. I had the same one. I don't really upgrade that often, but
okay, so that was a bad example.
Well, that's okay, but I will tell you what happens. In those 5 years, technology advances for the bad of transportation, not the good. We should be not only sourcing technology, but again, what's true to my heart is putting the right technologies in the right place to serve us, because we are the users of the transportation system. So the longer we wait to figure out what we need, the faster technology tells us what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I think that is why the time is, ripe for, people that have participated, been in the industry, and I consider myself a practitioner. I consider myself someone who has sat in the shoes of, our customers, because I believe that this is intended to serve us. This is our freedom, right? This is how we get where we want to go. And so that's what happens, right? And I get tired of people saying, well, why would you think that you could be the one to write a new standard? Why would you think? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I be the one to write a new standard? We are the ones to write the new standard because we care. We know what's true.
Well, you mentioned, and I know we were at World Congress, like we talked about vendors, and like there's a lot of different companies that have led the way in technology implementations and software and control systems, and a lot of I feel like a lot of our industry is still really captivated and controlled and contained within these proprietary systems, and just recently, actually, I think it was just last week, we had a really interesting meeting with one of my favorite cities, the city of Nashville,
It is
Tennessee.
fun. It is super fun.
I mean, who doesn't like to go to Nashville and go down to the honky tonk lane?
I won't even talk about what I did last time I was there.
But one of the challenges which we heard really proliferate out of those meetings was, hey, we have needs here. We have needs for better transit, for better operations in our signal systems, for better connected vehicle implementations, for better service to emergency vehicles. And I know at 360 we've been working very closely with the city to deploy those and implement those, but we've hit a lot of roadblocks, and inherently those roadblocks are because they have a proprietary legacy system that really still does follow industry standards, but what have it? I mean,
Well, I
how
don't
are
mean
those
to Goodwill
standards?
Hunting you, but it's
Yeah,
not their fault. Remember when
no,
he's like, it's not your fault. It's not their fault. There
yeah,
is a very strong lobby from the construction industry. Look, we're not, operations is secondary in what happens in transportation. Planning, design, capital improvements are done by civil engineers who design things and generally go out and build them. And so this background of designing and then building something sort of hinders the kind of, it's almost a 180 from how technology is deployed, right? We spend so much time trying to design that we forget that others are trying to build. So it's not their fault in Nashville that they have a lack of interoperability. So it's coming from really the industry. But I think what I'm seeing, again, is you see they want to make the system safer, more efficient. I see a bunch of really smart people in government that are tired of working with shitty products,
yeah.
that are extremely interested, are very talented, care about their communities, care about the agencies that they work for. I get very tired personally of hearing, well, government can't solve this problem. The same smart people that work for government sometimes go to work for Google or Amazon or maybe go be a bartender. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's more about your personal choice. And what I am seeing is an influx of younger people who are programmers, they understand information technology, and they want to change the world. And they are interested in government and public sector. And so I think that's what makes this the appropriate time. And you have one of those people that works for you. You have a young man like that who is innovative and interesting and interested, right? And there are people like that all over. We want to make the world better. We don't all just need to, sell the product that we were selling at Cisco, right? And I get it. Sometimes you have to do both, but I do think that it's just the right time.
Well, what's always what I've always been very appreciative of you is your ability to focus on what is the outcome that we're trying to solve. And I think as an industry, if we take that same perspective and say, what's the outcome that we want to try to accomplish? What is it that we want to solve? Let's forget the conceptual design. Let's like if we put all that aside, what's the outcome that we want to solve? It's really to embrace interoperability and to help with how our systems and how we move through the world we live in.
Of course, it's our freedom, it's our economy, it's our safety. Like, we're the people that use it. So who do you want? Whose technology do you want? We sometimes separate what we're doing from us. We're the users of the transportation system.
Right.
I need it to get here. We needed it today, right? We need it to work for us because that's the lifeblood of the economy. That's how we spend our time. That's how we pick up our kids from daycare and make sure we don't get charged. That's how we make it to work.
What do you think is one limiting factor about the way that our transportation system is organized and structured right now that is limiting the advancement of our technologies moving forward and the interoperability?
The system or just the ecosystem or the whole thing?
Be specific.
We need to put more young people in positions of power to help us better understand what we're missing. employees like some that you have, frankly, what I learned from my daughters. We are continuing to focus on building a transportation system that serves people that are our age and older. That's not who we're serving anymore. We're serving people that are younger, right? And what are their expectations? How do they think about travel? How do they think about data? What do they do on their phones?
They want and expect systems to work.
All the time.
Yeah. And they want them to work now.
For them.
Yeah.
And they're not worried about sort of the same things that work. So we have to find a way, to get younger people involved in this decision-making process, I guess, across the board in government. And I think that we really need to continue to use innovative media, like something like a podcast, to connect with people that don't think
do you
like
the
you and
idea
I.
of a podcast, by the way?
I will listen to you talk all night.
Well, I'll be honest. I've never actually listened to a podcast.
Well, you're going to start. I have a couple I want to send to you.
Okay, fantastic.
But I think the point I'm trying to make is that, we can't keep doing the same things across the board and expecting something to be different, right? And it's not just about the decisions we make in transportation. It's about how we go to market. How do we communicate our message? How do we talk to our customers? And something about video and, audio. I mean, everyone always says a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, why does everybody have a fucking PowerPoint with 1,000 words? Why don't you show a fucking picture? And thank you for showing a picture of, how you feel, what the world looks like and how it needs to be. The more we open up creativity and exposure to the things that are going on in the transportation system is how I
love that. I love that right there. I love the
change.
Creativity. I love to embrace that creativity. And how we expose that as well. How we can be caught behind rules and regulations and standards, but how that limits our creative minds, but also our creative technology implementations and our creativity behind how systems should interoperate and integrate together. I mean, we've built a company and a foundation on integrating systems and how to make them work collectively together. That's not easy to do, though. I had a lot of very uncomfortable conversations as early as today about, of systems that weren't going well together because of lack of interoperability. And I think that's a big challenge that we're all faced with every day. And but having a creative mind, I think that really opens up and exposes the ability to do things a little bit differently.
Well, challenge is opportunity. I mean, you had the opportunity today to enter into a conversation that customer would not have been willing to have unless they had the problem. When's the last time you wanted to solve a problem before you had it? Nobody wants to solve a problem before they have it, right?
Yeah.
They had a problem. They got to experience what it's like to invest public sector money in technologies that they believed were interoperable, which we tried to tell them 5 or 7 years ago that they weren't, but they hadn't experienced it yet. They experienced it, and you had the opportunity to be there to say, I get it. Instead of saying, we told you so, what did you say? I'll help you fix it. So now you really, Billy, are positioned to have the opportunity to be a change agent for them. That's what I see. I see the benefit of those conversations. I want things to fail. If you're a tech entrepreneur, the faster things fail, the faster you get to the right answer. And you had a great day today, as far as I'm concerned.
My niece said something to me recently that really resonated with me. And it's like, you know what? We need to fail fast. And that really resonated with me because it's true. Like, failure is a part of life every single day. Failure is a part of our personal lives. Failure is a part of our business, our professional lives. But failure, it doesn't define us as failures. It teaches us and helps us improve and do things. But if we just sit back and we don't do anything, if we don't fail fast, then it's just we become stagnant. How do we embrace the creativity that exists within our industry and within the technology world and within the private sector and public sector? And how do we advance these forward? But how do we fail fast? And how can we work to accelerate that creativity that I feel like is being limited within the regulations and the bureaucracy and the bullshit that we constantly are faced with of.
Well, first of all, I might have introduced the word failure, but I think the first step is we need to stop thinking of what we're doing at any step of the way as a failure, right?
Right.
we're continuing to, spread the message. I think one of the things that's unique about the relationship between my company and your company is that you bring a very tactical view of the world. You've actually been out in the field and you're doing these things. And I bring a very high level kind of state government, policy, funding view of the world, right? So we're both, right? We have identified, not through failure, but our own successes, that we might need to bring more people to the table. I brought you to the table because you actually do the things that I talk about. You brought me to the table because you know that I'm the type of people that help you get the money to pay the bills. We need to start to think about who else do we need to at the table. We can't solve the problem independently. We solve it as a community. You said grassroots. So I think that's what we do. How do we make the table bigger? Who do we bring in? Essentially, how do we...
Interested parties. We want people that are like-minded people that also want to embrace that creativity, and let's go out and pave and make our own path. But let's do that in a safe and appropriate way. But let's go out and change the industry.
There's no reason not to. It's a $30 billion industry. If somebody says no, it's not a failure. It just means the next person is going to say yes.
Well, I think there's a lot of like-minded people out there, and I'm excited to have more folks on with the same passion and creativity as you, Michelle Maggiore, president of 2M. You're a rock star, and I absolutely love having you on the show. I have to ask you, what's your favorite record on the wall, first of all?
Oh, this is going to be difficult.
Music is a passion of mine,
it is.
and it influences me and my creativity, but you have to pick one.
Well, I'm just going to pick the Beatles. They're not on the wall, but I think everybody has to kind of start with the Beatles and
Boom.
Go up from there.
Boom. I absolutely love it. I want to say thank you so much. I want to say cheers.
Cheers.
And,
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
To many more
Until next
great
time.
opportunities.
Cheers.